Hello, welcome to this brief tutorial on how to create a basic calculator in Python using object-oriented programming. I will show you how to create a class with some attributes and two basic methods. After the tutorial, I'll encourage you to create more methods to add more functionality to the example. Firstly, I will create two files in Trinket, a main.py file and a calculate.py file. To do that, I'll just go here and I click add, and I'll call this calculate.py. Now I have got two files that are linked together. The main.py file will contain the main procedural code and core methods. The calculate.py file will contain the class, attributes and methods. In the calculate.py file, I'll create a class using the init method. And to save a bit of time, I've actually got the code here, and I'm just going to cut and paste here. So basically what I've done is up the top here I've created a class called calculate. Notice I've used a capital letter here, calculate. And I've actually created I've used the init method to create the class. It's going to contain three arguments: self, the name of whatever the object is called. It's going to create an attribute for the calculate's name and its description. I'm going to assign that to name, and I'm going to assign that to a description. When we create a class, it refers to the name of the instance of the object in the code. Now think of this class as a template and an instance of an example of that template. Today we'll name our calculator Bob and provide it with a description. Now back in the main py file, we will import the calculate class, and this code now this is the code. Now in this code it will actually import the file calculate, and it'll also import the object calculate, the capital C. I'll just show you how that works. So what we've basically done here is we've said from calculate, which is that file there, I'm going to import a module. I'm going to import a module called calculate, which is this one here, which is this class here. So when we run this code, you'll notice that nothing happens so far. So it doesn't do anything. Now that's because we haven't set any attributes, we haven't named the object yet, we haven't given it any descriptions. So now let's do this. I'll type this section in. As I said, I'll call this calculator Bob. It will actually equal calculate. It's actually telling us it's a module called calculate. The first thing I want to pass its name. How about we'll actually give it a nickname. The nickname will be Bobby. And we'll say it's a cool calculator. That's it. So now if we go back here, we'll see that we've actually named it. So that'll be the name, so it'll be Bob. Its actual nickname will actually be called Bobby, and it'll return here a cool calculator. So they'll be assigned to these variables here, name or description. Notice that if we call the object a different name, that'll be referred here as well when we use this attribute called self. So here we are here. So we've actually created a calculator called Bob. Now if I run this, still nothing happens. I've actually assigned some variables and assigned some properties to to this class, but I still haven't given it any description back. So to do that, we need to create another little method in our calculate class. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it a method. This method will actually describe the calculator. I'm just going to go describe itself, so it's going to describe the calculator tool that we've actually created. And I'll just cut and paste the rest of this code here, just to ease my typing a bit. What I've done here is I've given it a description, so name, it's called Bobby. It'll get the properties from here, and it'll say is here, so Bobby is here, and a description that we've given it. So now if I run this, still nothing happens. So what do I have to do to actually get this description back? Well, what I have to do now is actually have to create I have to call a method. How I do that is I go Bob. I use this syntax called common syntax in a lot of programs. I give it what method am I trying to call? I'm trying to call the describe method. I better make sure I got the spelling right, so this is it here. So I'm going to call this method. And that's it. So I've got bob.describe. If I run that, now it should actually say Bobby is here, a cool calculator. Sorry, run that there. So it does that. Over here it says Bobby is here, a cool calculator. Now you may say at this stage, well, big deal. How is it any better than traditional programming? Well, here's where the magic happens. I can actually create any number of objects here. So I could actually create another calculator. I could say Mary equals calculate. And I could say Mazza, give her a nickname. And, well, she's a better calculator than Bob. And then I could then say Mary dot describe, and then you'll actually see what Mary's properties are that we've assigned. And I could create a whole lot of different objects here. So in a game I could create dozens of different zombies, and each with slightly different characteristics. But today we want to look at creating a calculator. So let's go back here and create another little method, and this method will actually add two numbers together. So I'll start from here. I better make sure, I didn't explain this, and in Python we need to make sure that we have our alignment correctly. So we have to make sure it's indented at the right level. This one we'll call it add. We're going to pass three different arguments here. The first one is self. We always do this when we create a method in an object, we put self in first in Python. We're going to have an x value and a y value. Very simply, we're just going to print out what x plus y equals. So I'm going to go x plus y. Now that should print out, if x is 10 and y is 15, it should actually print out 25. So I come here. I'm going to call that function. I'm going to say Bob add, and now I pass two values, two integers. So I'm going to pass, let's say 15, and we'll pass 10. So it's two values. What should happen if I've done everything correctly? It should call this method add. It'll be calling the instance of the class, which will be Bob in this particular occurrence. X should track to being 15, so 15 will pass to X here. and 10 will pass to y there. We'll then print out those two values. So we'll print out 10 plus 15. So hopefully we should get 25, if I haven't made any mistakes. Let's run it and see what happens. And you can see that the output changed. So indeed, it does actually add up to 25. All right, so here's your task. And your task is to create more methods to multiply divide and subtract two numbers. If we use our logic, we create another little method like this, except we'll call it something different, and this value here, but print value will be slightly different. If we come over here and we call that method that we've created and pass those values, we should fairly simply be able to create more of that, more functionality to our little example here. Just to recap, hopefully what I've gone over today, we can create a class in Python. At the very top, we define it as a class, we give it a name. The convention usually is to give it a capital letter, open bracket, close bracket, colon. Then we indent different methods. The first thing I want to do is use the init method. I'm giving it some attributes to start off with. So when I actually call the name of the object the first time, I can pass some values across. In this case it was Bob, and it was a cool calculator. So then they got tracked to name and description. Then I can actually describe it. So I've create a little method to describe it. So when it's called Bob, it'll say the name, the nickname I've given it, and it'll tell me the description. And later on I actually had another method to actually add two values. Another important thing is we can actually use this equal sign. So I'm saying Bob equals calculate. I'm creating an instance of the calculator. I'm passing these values across. I can then create a different instance. I can say Mary calculate. Again, I can give Mary a nickname as I did before. And remember, I said that Mary was better than Bob. And I can do that again. I call a method. I say Bob describe. Remember, if I've got a slightly different instance, I can say Mary dot describe. And then I can actually add up. I can pass values, call a method called add, and add those values up. Could also do one for Mary as well. And then that will add up Mary's values. So there we go. So that's a bit to go on with. And the task is to try to create more methods to multiply, divide, that doesn't look right, and subtract two numbers.